Now, there we go. So it's been a very big month. I can't quite believe that a month has passed since the last one of these that we did. So yeah, I'm not sure if anyone else is feeling that, but I feel like it's a very busy time right now. So yeah, it's always good to recap and to kind of come back together and think about what's new and what's next. So as usual, we like to start with just a little brief overview of Animal Rebellion and our strategy. So I'm just going to go through that quite quickly because I think everyone here knows what's up, but it's always good to have a refresher for me as well. So of course, mass movement, we're using non-violent civil disobedience, and we're trying to bring about a transition to a just and sustainable plant-based food system. And there's so many reasons that we want to do this, and some of the main ones are kind of alleviating the worst effects of the climate crisis, halting mass extinction, and ensuring justice for animals. So we focus on animal and climate justice. We also want to be part of the global justice kind of movement, justice for all. We want to see system change, and we're grounded in community and our local groups. So hopefully all of you have seen this many times before. This is basically the model of strategy that we use, which is a strategic pyramid with our big goal at the top, the points along the way, and how we're working to get there. So we have the strategic objective of a just and sustainable plant-based food system in the UK. And we have these milestones that we're working towards of changing public consciousness and shifting the Overton window of what is acceptable in society and what is common sense around animals and climate. We also want to become we want animal agriculture to be a dominant part of the climate movement when talking about the main causes of the climate crisis. And we want animal agriculture to be part of the political discourse. So we want it to be impossible to talk about climate solutions without talking about animal farming and animal agriculture. So this slide is just a brief recap of back in December, we did a month-long strategy consultation across the organization for what people wanted to see us achieve in 2021. And these were some of the main themes that came out, which is what we've kind of built our strategy and our approach around. So people wanted to see a win in the media. People wanted to see mass mobilization. People wanted us to kind of have this focus on visioning for the future. People want us to grow internally, so have more full-time, part-time volunteers. People wanted us to see our campaign wins, and we've already been seeing this happening with the Plant-Based Council's campaign. So real tangible wins that we can see and measure. People wanted more international solidarity and more connection to kind of the international movement. And people wanted us to build our collaborations and connections with other movements. So I think this is important to kind of remember and recognize when we go through kind of updates and what we're working towards, we can ground that in. Is this working towards what we kind of all as a movement identified as what we want to see happen in Animal Rebellion in 2021? So some of you who have been to the last two updates will remember this. So this is the same. This is kind of the timeline that we've seen develop out of that with a few extra additions. So this one up here that says strategy retreat, I'm going to talk about in a bit. And that was replaced from Rebellion Camp, which used to be in that little bubble. And there's also a new one down here, which I'll talk about, which says Rebellion plus Animal Rights March. So that's also kind of something that's in development, which I'll talk a little bit about today. And of course, we still have March to May, spectacle and mobilization. We have G7 in June, and of course, all along COP at the end of the year, and local groups in the council's campaign happening and moving all throughout the year. So before we get into things that are coming up and things that are happening, I think it's important to celebrate our wins. And this is not a comprehensive list. This was me sitting down for 10 minutes and thinking about what's happened in the last month. And I will be honest that the months have blurred into one for me. So it's hard to separate what's happened since we last met sometimes. But some of the things that I kind of remembered and things that have really stood out to me as being major wins since we last met in April were we saw us supporting Black Lives Matter at the Kill the Bill rally. So that was building relationships and showing solidarity by providing, de-escalation, well-being, stewards, and the like. And we'll also be doing that again on the 29th. So that's a really important relationship that we're building there. Seen the G7 messaging kind of released, and the messaging briefing, which is now up on YouTube. So these are like some of the key messages that we're going to be trying to get across at G7. We've also had the G7 announcement made. So the pledge has, I think it was up to almost 50 people, and there's 93 plus people already in the G7 broadcast since it was released towards the end of April. So that's quite exciting, like showing that we're building energy around this event in G7 in Cornwall. We've had the first 2 all-hands meetings of the year have happened with good attendance, and this is allowing for information flow from across Animal Rebellion. And this is something that we've identified as being lacking for quite a while, and many people have kind of talked about how they want better flow of communication. So this is a really exciting step forward, I think. We also saw the first Physical Friday, and there'll be another one happening this Friday where London-based volunteers are able to come to the warehouse and help out with making banners and flags and really connect into upcoming actions and how to get involved. Really excitingly as well, we saw the XR strategy update being released, and thanks to a lot of hard work from Animal Rebels who were on the strategy assembly for many, many months, giving, I think it was over 9 hours a week. XR included speciesism in this strategy update as being something that they really wanted to consider. So that's pretty amazing and an exciting step towards kind of our milestone of animals being included in the environmental movement. Manchester have been participating in lots of local group actions with their local Kill the Bill, and also they're now with the occupation of Rybank Fields. So that's really exciting to see such a local group really kind of stepping up and starting to form along their own lines, and starting to see this kind of northern hub of Animal Rebellion happening. And there's also a new Brighton local group, which is very exciting. So yeah, and there's many more things. We've had animators come on board, which is just awesome. We had new videos being released. So much kind of exciting things happening around the organization. What's Animal Rebellion learning? This is also something I think is important to share. There's so many people doing so many amazing things across Animal Rebellion, and so many, courses and learnings and trainings. And I think it's important to celebrate that, because one of our principles is that we value reflecting and learning. So, the work that goes behind the scenes is just as important as, the work that's happening out on the streets. So the SOS team, so hi Rob, thanks for coming, has 2 people on an 8-month course, which will support us in implementing a self-organizing system across Animal Rebellion. So that's really exciting and really incredible for these 2 people to be kind of in that position, and just a credit to kind of that work. There was also a 2-day power workshop held where 7 people from Animal Rebellion went along to better understand how we can develop a healthy relationship to power. And I've just scheduled a teach-in for this on the 17th of May. So that will be kind of going over some of the key concepts we learned. So I'll send that out in the follow-up email as well. A Specialism Workshop was developed with great participation and attendance to talk about what is speciesism and why it's important to the work that we do. And there was also the first in the series of race, class, and our food systems, which is obviously a really important workshop. Which is kind of talking about how these intersections of race, class, and animal agriculture and food systems kind of intertwine, and how we can understand that. So yeah, lots of learning happening, and again, just the tip of the iceberg. But I think it's important to celebrate and recognize what's going on across different circles in Animal Rebellion. So moving on, what's coming up? And you can see the kind of G7 image in the background, slowly kind of moving up, because it's very much on the horizon now. We're just over a month away. We'll be down in Cornwall. So yeah, really exciting. It's a big thing. We're hoping to get as many people as we can in Cornwall, and there's a lot of work happening around making that happen, because obviously, everything we've done so far in a big capacity, both of our rebellions have happened in London. So, you know, going to Cornwall, making it really big is something that's really exciting for us. It's a big step for us as Animal. It's a big step for Animal Rebellion. It's a big step for all of us, I think. So obviously we're going to need, you know, all hands on deck to make it happen. So if you're not already involved and want to be involved in kind of making G7 happen and volunteering, whether behind the scenes, remotely, on the ground, whatever kind of, wherever you'll be, whatever your skills are, it's going to be a chance for all of us to come together and step into our ability to lead and be on the streets and make stuff happen. So just let me know, or let anyone know, and can make this happen together. So this is what's coming up in 2021, the first half of the year. And I put some ticks on things that have already happened, because I think it's important to recognize that we've already done some stuff and it's been pretty exciting. So in April, we saw an action at the Department for Education around the council's campaign and the national standards, national food guidelines, which require meat and dairy to be served. We also saw a National Paint the Streets Day, where our brandalism posters around fast food went up in Birmingham, I think Manchester, all across London, and in some other places as well. So that was really exciting and a great kind of way for everyone to kind of take action together. In May, we have another fast food action coming up, and probably another two more fast food actions coming up, one in May, one in June. And then we have G7 coming up in June as well. So the conference will be 11th to the 13th, and we're hoping to have some training days beforehand as well. So G7 is obviously, as I said, on the horizon, and the dates we're kind of giving at the moment are the 8th to the 14th. So the conference itself is the 11th to the 13th, and our ideal plan at the moment is that people will arrive on the 8th. We'll have 2 training days from the 9th and the 10th, and then 3 days of action, 11th to the 13th, and then packing up and leaving on the 14th. So we're encouraging people to kind of, you know, plan in advance, book time off, you know, start thinking about how you're going to get there, if you have transport, if you need transport. The handbook was just released, so that's in Telegram channels or the Animal Rebellion mailing list if you're not already signed up, but I'll also include it in the follow-up email. And at the moment, we're still confirming where exactly we'll be camping, but that information will be sent out ASAP. So what's new with G7? We have some Facebook frames, which the wonderful graphics team has put together to kind of show people's commitment to going to G7 with Animal Rebellion. So you can find them on Facebook. I don't really know how it works, but I have one, so it can't be that hard to find. We also have a headline message of a just transition must be plant-based, which is the message we really want to be pushing. And we're still trying to find exactly where we'll be camping, and we're really encouraging people to kind of start thinking about it now. If you need to book time off work, start talking to people in your local area. If you can come down together as a group, like that's always going to be better. Carpooling, going with friends on the train or anything like that. But if you are heading down by yourself and you don't feel 100% certain what to do, we have a Solo Rebels kind of chat and whole place to go if you're a solo rebel, where you can meet other people, form affinity groups potentially, and just kind of not have to go by yourself. So that's a really great option. It's been really fantastic in past rebellions as well. So something that's new is that we've kind of been thinking about post G7, how do we kind of plan for what's going to come next? How are we going to think about 2022? How are we going to make sure that everyone who wants to be involved and everyone who wants to step up and take action can kind of be part of that big picture thinking about where we're going, how we're doing with our strategy, and what comes next. Thanks, Jan, for posting that. So we're going to have a strategy retreat in July. So just over a month after G7, this will be a retreat for people who want to step into leadership in Animal Rebellion, as well as people who are already kind of in that position of taking on responsibility. So anyone is welcome at this retreat, but we'll be specifically reaching out to people who are in IC roles, people who've expressed that they are interested in being full-time or part-time or giving as much time as they can, and people who feel like they really want to kind of be like committed to organizing and leading an animal rebellion. And obviously, like, this could be anyone. Like, it doesn't have to just be people who you see presenting things. It doesn't have to just be, you know, people who are currently kind of in a coordination role. Like, anyone in animal rebellion can step up and be a leader. And if this feels like something you want to do, if this feels like something you really want to kind of be a part of, or if you're just kind of like, oh, I'm not a leader, but I really care and I really want to make change, like, you don't have to self-identify as a leader to be involved in this. We just really want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to be part of making animal rebellion kind of continue and be a force to be reckoned with well into the future. So that's the whole point of this retreat, making sure that we're kind of all pulling together and all voices are going to be heard. So yeah, come along. Location TBC, and exact dates will be to be confirmed as well. But I'll send out kind of the ideas around it in the follow-up email as well. And yeah, it's going to be good fun as well. Lots of team building and a chance to kind of rest and regen as well after G7, hopefully. And, you know, summer should be good. I'm just going to change the slide. Cool. Okay. We've also had confirmation, pretty much confirmation from XR that there will be a rebellion in late August. So this will likely be similar to the kind of previous year's rebellions, and yeah, something that we really want to be part of as well. So the date that has kind of been floated is starting from the 23rd of August, but that's not kind of 100% certain. But we know that there's likely going to be some kind of mass uprising, mass mobilization in late August. So that's something to think about and look forward to as well. And it also coincides with the vegan campout, which is from the 21st to the 23rd of August, which is a massive, you know, chance for us to reach out to people who, you know, might want to be involved in animal rebellion but might not know how to be involved, and also to kind of find new people who might not have heard about animal rebellion or what we do and might want to get involved. And also just a chance to kind of, yeah, get to know each other as volunteers, kind of have the chance to do some block printing, hear some speeches, eat some food, all the good things, and prepare for the rebellion. Also, as some of you have probably already heard, we have reached out to Surge, who, as some of you probably know, usually do the official Animal Rights March. The last one was in 2019 because of COVID last year. And we've reached out to them and they said that they're probably not going to, or they're definitely not going to be doing it this year, but they're really happy if we want to kind of take that on and make that happen. So that's something we really want to see happen. We think it's really important to have a chance for, you know, grassroots animal rights movement to kind of come together and to build these coalitions and alliances. So we've been talking to some other groups about having an animal rights march on the 28th of August. So, you know, tentatively pencil that in. Should be a good day out to kind of, yeah, get that message across and make sure that we're all coming together as, you know, animal justice movements. And then that brings us to the end of the year in November, when it is dark and cold, but that doesn't mean that, you know, decisions don't stop being made. So COP is happening in Glasgow, where it is particularly dark and cold. But this is such an important event. Like, I can't stress, you know, how important it is. Like, I can't stress the importance. This is where the target set in the Paris Agreement will be talked about and reevaluated, and where really key decisions will be made about how these kind of massive influential countries are tackling the climate crisis and like their action plan and what they're going to do. So this is something that many groups will be mobilizing around. XR, of course, but many other groups as well, spanning a whole bunch of different issues. And there's currently a coalition being formed of animal justice and animal rights and animal welfare groups to march on the first day of COP. So hopefully that, Animal Rebellion is part of that, and that will be a really amazing start to this conference. COP is 12 days long, so there's plenty of opportunity to take action. There's plenty of opportunity to make our message really front and center and really heard. So yeah, stay tuned about what's happening for that. And if you want to get involved as well, if this is something you're really passionate about, if you feel like you have ideas to share, you have any kind of inspiration, motivation, like whenever I'm sharing these things, it's not like, oh, this is being planned, just sit back and wait. It's like, this is something we want to see happen, and we have to kind of pull together to make it happen. So yeah, really exciting stuff. And of course, the Feed Our Future Plant-Based Cancers campaign is trucking along throughout all of this. Every week it seems like there's a new step forward in a different part of the UK. So it's really exciting for those of you who are kind of following along or are part of this. And yeah, just wondering if I could get like a little show of hands of who might be running this in their area, because I know there's so many people. Awesome. Yeah, I always find that really cool to see people kind of like, there's so many people across the UK in different parts like running this in their councils, and really seeing change. And even if like, not seeing change, like I think making that contact and starting those conversations and having those connections then to your local councillors, seeing who's supportive, seeing who's not, building those kind of relationships it's a massive win in its own right. And I think it's been really empowering to see that, we can make change, even if it might feel small at sometimes. It is change, and it is kind of moving towards our goal. So yeah, big up to all of that. And if you want to get involved, Ben, maybe post a link in the chat about how people can kind of link up with that.
Catherine's actually in charge of this.
Catherine, there you are. Cool. Yeah, maybe I don't know if you want to say anything about how people can get involved, or if you want to post something in the chat.
Yeah, I'll post that, and we'll have a talk coming up, an intro talk on, Ben, what date is it?
The 11th.
The 11th. Cool. So I'll post the link in the chat.
Awesome.
Good to see more people.
And other dates as well. The National Animal Rights Day has been moved from the 6th of June to July. So that's something we're probably going to help out with, just in solidarity and to show and to build that kind of coalition. There's also the Vegan Organic Camp from August 12th to the 16th. And the UN Biodiversity Conference is October 11th to 24th. So yeah, just some other dates that are kind of coming up that might be relevant. So yeah, really exciting and lots going on, but lots to get involved with as well. And if there's anything that really kind of sparks your interest, you don't have to wait for things, as I keep saying, never have to wait for people to kind of start doing things. Like, I think what I really love about Animal Rebellion is seeing how people have ideas, and when other people are inspired by their ideas, and they all kind of rally around that. So if you ever have any ideas, chuck them in the volunteer Telegram chats, put them anywhere, and make stuff happen. And also feel free to reach out to me or anyone else in Animal Rebellion who you know, and we can make magic happen. That was, yeah, ignore me. Cool. Moving on, I'm going to pass over to Sammy, who's going to be walking us through some really important stuff about the regenerative action cycle and how we can kind of build a healthy relationship to strategy and to culture and kind of who we are and where we're moving in Animal Rebellion. So take it away, Sammy.
Thank you, Harley. Exactly, we're going to take a look at the regenerative action cycle, and we thought it would be interesting and fun to really look a little more deeply into this, just go through it step by step, because the slide is quite small. When we bring it up, it's quite hard to see. So I just want to kind of pace us through it. And then we're going to see it in terms of our movement strategy and also our personal strategy and our goals toward regenerative culture. So we'll start at the top. And as you can see, top circle represents winter. And it's a need to rest and to dream, to take time for reflection. And that opens up inspiration, and it reconnects us to our vision, to nature. And I feel that the most important thing to remember as we examine this cycle is to be aware it has as much to do with ourselves as it does to nature and to the formation of a movement. So we begin with winter, and then we head into spring. And spring, as you can see on the graph, is where we feel gratitude. And we have a welcoming of friends and old faces, like we see flowers growing and we're like, oh, there you are. And I think we also set ourselves new intentions, and we have ideas, we find inspiration. I think having heard all that Harley has spoken of, it would make sense to say that time. And we're heading into the formation of getting to G7 and COP26, and we've got the summer coming along where teams are formed and training is happening, as we talked about, skills are being implemented, and then we're ready to go. So as you can see on the slide, this is all part of like the mid-morning sense of working towards a goal, the goals that we aspire to. And we then go straight into day, and midday is the time that we do the action. And that's where we honor our principles and values, and we connect and we communicate. We ensure that well-being is there for everybody, and that we have a back for anyone who needs help or who needs our attention. So if we're looking at this from a traditional strategic point of view, could spoken about so far are just ticks in the boxes. You know, a lot of companies, a lot of businesses have done this, we've done that. Intermingle this with the perspective of culture and the formation of new regenerative culture, kind, caring. These strategic elements become something much more powerful. Formation of a new lifestyle for each and every one of us. I wondered, you know, like having just gone through the first section, if anyone had any feelings connected to it or any thoughts on that, like how does it make you feel when you actually kind of take it to a natural process?
Yes, relate and everything.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's how because I'm not, you know, I don't feel, or for a long time I didn't feel connected to strategy, something that I could implement until I saw it or as something that connected to my emotions or to my feelings. Thank you. So we'll dig a bit deeper into sort of strategy and the historic meaning of strategy in a while, but for now we'll just continue with the cycle and acknowledge the next steps and noon and the beginning of autumn. So after the action, it's a time when we come home and we focus on self-care and nourishment. And it's a time where we support arrestees, people who have experienced stuff they weren't prepared for during the time. Over our return, we can celebrate and we can share our stories and experiences. And then we come back into winter and we look towards acceptance of where we're at. We encourage feedback, take part in talking circles. We discuss grief and of gratitude. So the fascinating thing I find about this cycle is that our dedication or lack of dedication to culture can make or break our movement and or ourselves. So our strategy cannot work without conscious, persistent focus and follow through of the culture we wish to create. As an example, I was in a meeting the other day and we began with 10. Thank you, Harley. I often facilitate meetings and I realized recently that I have completely forgotten to begin these meetings with 10 breaths. And I just basically fall back into the systemic ideology of getting stuff done. You know, be efficient and enthusiastic. You know, I'm right on point, on message. I got all my good intentions, but I was forgetting to take that moment to allow myself and everyone in the meeting to center themselves and to just stop for like a minute, you know. This is an example of where strategy and culture combined is essential, because in forgetting that, I was forgetting how important it is to remember that everything tied into our ability into the culture we desire. I wondered if anybody else had had experiences like that, like, you know, either in life or in meetings, or realize you've fallen back into what you're used to, you know, the way we're used to doing things. I keep flicking through. Sorry, I'm on my phone flicking through. Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? We feel like we have to just keep going, keep doing. Yet we're talking about a regenerative culture, you know, where we're actually kind to ourselves, and I think that's something that's really important. So look. Oh, so why don't we read the but the thing is, Ben, it does feel like most of the time, doesn't it? And I think that thing is like, we go, okay, we've got to take like a moment. But yeah, I can see Brian.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm thinking of a moment, and it's sort of how the day progresses. Somehow, during the course of the day, the problem that you're facing, trying to solve, you have the energy, and then you get to a point where you think, should I give up? And then you get something like a bolt of lightning that comes to you. No, because it's too important. It is just too important. You just have to carry on. I've had that. I've come to that point probably in the last 3 days every day, but I'm still trying.
Yeah, I think I think that's really true, is that we feel this urge to carry on. We are committed. And so I think it is finding the balance of, but if that gives us joy, then that is as essential as stepping back and taking a break. If stepping back for that moment in time didn't give us joy and made us feel anxious, and we couldn't sleep because we're thinking, I should be doing this, then actually we've got to look at it in a way of how it relates to us and how we feel, and whether we can then catch sleep, or we can then take a moment to breathe. I think that's why breathing really struck home for me in the meetings, because I love meetings, so I'm eager to jump in. But I did realize those few moments of 10 breaths actually change everything. They just give me that time. Don't need much sleep. I just need 10 breaths, or I just need to tell myself it's okay to get this finished, and then I can stop a moment.
I think you also come to a point where you think that you have achieved your goal, and then the adrenaline drops off, and you've got to recover from that sort of downtime as well. And I'm not sure that the breaths is what you need. I think you need something like, I'm not quite sure, but it's something uplifting, not calming.
Yeah, I think personal choice as well, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Holly, you have a point.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think this is why this is so important to strategy and like what we do, because it's so easy sometimes. I feel like when you're in that like slump and like the winter, the nighttime, whatever it is, to feel like, oh well, okay. And it's like, I think we see so many kind of groups or movements or people kind of drop out or leave or stop, because of that kind of slump down. And I think it's so important then to like recognize like what comes after that, and like that point of like rest maybe, or reflection is like it's prep for the next season. But yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just going to through and say anyone else. Yes, go ahead.
it does really say we were in a big time slump, middle, nothing going on and COVID, and it's nice coming out to actually having stuff to do in a direction and focus. Yeah, I thought we definitely did have a slump.
Yeah, absolutely. Does that sort of joy to jump back in, doesn't it? I think what we'll do now is we'll take a look at the Regen reminder. So we can have a good old read of it. There we go. So I'll just read this through and then we can all let it sink in. So we are transitioning towards a regenerative culture. This is a culture of respect and listening in which people deal with conflicts when they arise, use short feedback loops to talk about disagreements and issues without blaming and shaming. This is a culture in which we cultivate healthy boundaries by slowing down our yeses and returning tasks when we are unable to follow through. This is an inclusive culture in which we recognize our own privileges and step back to give space for others to step forward. It is a healthy, resilient culture built on care and support, where commitments, we are all crew. So I'm going to let you I'm going to just let that sink in or float for the while, because before really sort of talking about it anymore, I'm going to look at the word strategy. So if we go on to slide, is it slide 30? No, slide 29? Yeah, brilliant, thank you. So can anyone give me a definition of strategy? Of the word strategy? Yeah, David.
Or it's just like a plan, isn't it? A kind of step-by-step, like how, like there's a massive goal and you're trying to figure out the best way to approach it. Well, you could think of it like a map even as well. I mean, that's kind of my impression.
Absolutely. Yeah. Perfect, thank you. So the word strategy comes from the Greek word strategia. It means the art of troop leader, office of general command, generalship, planning and directing overall operations and movement in war and battle. Obviously, all very much geared towards military and the patriarchal system. So that's where strategy comes from. And historically, strategizing in war or in peace has included the sacrifice and abuse of millions of humans and of animals in war, in business, in politics, and in everyday life. It has been about the destruction of many for the greater good, even now, within the context of ethics, or in the context of the new buzzword sustainability. It is still involving destruction. So this is obviously not where Rebellion or XR placed their idea of strategy. A few days ago, I was actually reading that the XR update Harley mentioned, and it's really interesting because in the document it focuses on mistakes that have been made due to an unintended follow-through in that they're already in. It's a system that shames and blames and has lacked inclusivity and intersectionality. And the document then goes through everything and then really focuses in on culture, a strategy that is dependent on culture and that is different to that past. So, think about creating a culture that's different from the past could easily be like, well, yeah, that's what we're going to do. it's a given. But creating something new and different and kinder and better for isn't that simple. It's really easy to fall back into. So the reason I bring this here now is that a strong movement relies on everyone. I'm not sure, Harley. Yeah.
So the strategy updates are scheduled for an hour and a half. We usually finish in an hour and then have discussion.
Yes.
So it's, yeah.
Yeah, we've got a little bit more to. What time is it? Are we at the 8 o'clock? Are we at the 1:30 mark?
No, not yet.
Yeah, so I'm all right
yeah.
to just.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, so so a strong movement relies on everyone, all of us, and in creating a new vision of the future relies on us all feeling empowered and confident enough in the vision of our culture to be able to follow through in every plan, every tactic, every decision that we make. And in the Regen reminder, if you remember, cultures and dealing with conflict when they arise, and that's not easy to do. It's not easy to deal with conflict the minute it arises, but it's something to practice. It's about not saying yes to too many things, but what we say yes to being able to follow it through. This is such a different thing to look at than anything that we're used to in society so far. We've experienced so much rush and the push, and it's a very toxic situation and society that lacks transparency and trust and has a place, an idea of power that's historically situated patriarchal system. So changing the beliefs that we've been taught our whole lives is something for us to acknowledge and to focus on for ourselves, as well as being a major part of our movement. And it's internal in our movement, it's internal in ourselves, and it's external for us to understand what's happening in the world around us, and also in putting our message out there. Slide, I think slide 31, Harley. Because as a decentralized movement and a movement based on autonomy, the goal is for everyone to feel empowered and to be able to strategize and create actions and come up with ideas. We have all the time now, and they're all finding their feet, and everyone is coming from different upbringings and different understandings of what it means to be part of a movement, and focus on our culture and understand what that culture means, both politically and linguistically, even parts of the country and different parts of the world, that can transform our relationship to ourselves and to others and bring strategy to its full potential. So if we look back on history, it's clear that everything in society has been built on this patriarchal mindset, and it has developed over thousands of years. So here we are, still with that happening, called The Creation of Patriarchy by Gerda Lerner. And to quote her, she says, "Step out of patriarchal thought means being skeptical towards every system of thought, being critical of all assumptions, ordering values and definitions." This is important for men and women. This is because a new vision needs to be held by all of us. And that sort of connects me to the thought of emotions. We need our feelings and emotions. They've been pushed aside for so long, even strategy, but we do need that. We need those because those help us define things, and it helps us bring in concepts of a better existence. So because we're guided by our emotions, we're protected and we're so inspired by them. It's a massive quest to step out of a system that's so ingrained in all of us, and our placement and understanding of the main things to shift as well, because that's been so singular. So we're crew, and we're a crew who respect each other for what they are, for what they do, no matter how much it is or how, and I wrote this down, perceptionally, I don't think that's a word, how perceptionally little we do. It doesn't matter. On a daily basis, whatever we do is important, and all of us strategize, in terms of strategy. Thank you, strategy team. You do an incredible job, and you're out there looking at socioeconomic structures and social changes and future thinking, and all of us, everyone here has an ability to strategize. Important for us. So Max McEwen describes strategy as shaping the future, human attempt to get desirable ends with available means. And one of our greatest resources that we have in our movement towards those desirable means by paving a way with a dedication to our culture. So I just wanted to say, I'm going to end this sort of section here, and I just wanted to say that this has been put together just hopefully to inspire and empower all of us and to connect us all on strategy and culture as one. And I hope that it's felt good to have a look at it. So we'll go on to, I think, slide 32.
Thanks so much, Sammy. I think it's a really important discussion about, how strategy isn't something, big that's happening over there. And the reason we have these strategy updates is to bring everyone in and make sure that we kind of can all see how we're like playing a part of that as whatever role we're taking in Animal Rebellion, and how important, our contributions are, and also how important it is to kind of step into that responsibility and that leadership, and like how, I think one of the amazing things about Animal Rebellion is, and one of the things that really inspires me, is that there's no cap, there's no limit on who can kind of take responsibility, who can kind of take ownership over different things, and who can kind of, make stuff happen. It's not like a hierarchy where there's one bit boss telling everyone else what to do. Like, we all have the potential to step into power and step into leadership, and that's not a negative thing. That's a really incredibly positive thing. And if we're kind of like empowering each other to be the best we can be, and to realize our visions, and to kind of make that happen within Animal Rebellion, within our vision, like that's how we can kind of make change. So I think it's such an important discussion, and such an important discussion that we can keep having. So that kind of almost brings us to the end of the update, and then we'll have a chance for questions and discussion. But before we go, just a couple of little things about what's next from here. So there's, we're mobilizing for G7. That's a big thing that we really want to get involved with. So fill out the pledge, and also get involved. Like, if you're in a team and you're not talking about G7 at the moment, bring that to your next team meeting about, what you're going to do, how you're going to get involved. If you're kind of looking to get more involved, again, like, put it in the, you can always like put something in the volunteer chat. You can always reach out to me, reply to the follow-up email. And there's so much to do, and there's so many kind of, there's so much room for innovation and new ideas, and nothing's set, nothing's kind of been dictated by anyone. It's all kind of open, and we're going to make something really amazing. The next all hands meeting will be Friday the 14th at 6 p.m. Of May. So all hands meetings are a place for kind of all different teams, and just any volunteer to kind of come and share what people are working on, ways to get involved, and like support needed. So if you have things you want to share, if you just want to hear what's going on and be more connected, and if you need some help, like if you're going, I have this problem and I don't know how to fix it, like we've had 2 all hands meetings so far, and at the second one we already saw like problems that people brought up in the first meeting having been addressed and moved forward on by the second meeting. So that's really great. There's work on actions for G7 happening right now. And there'll be like know your rights trainings and de-escalation and all the kind of support roles trainings. There's a bunch happening next week. So, keep an eye on the virtual village and places like that to, brush up on your support role skills, and get ready. And what excites you? Start planning. If there's something that really inspired you, and if you don't feel confident to start planning now, again, like bring it back to your team, bring it back to people in your local area. Go to a DNA training if you're a bit unsure of, what does it mean to take action in the name of Animal Rebellion, and reach out to other volunteers, because we are all crew, we're all here to help each other and to support each other, and also to see real change. And that's why we do this, right? It's because of this community, but it's also because we believe that we can make real change in the world, and that's what we're aiming for, and that's what we're gonna see happen. So that brings us to the end of this update, but stick around if you can and we'll have a chat. So any questions? Also, if there's any people from groups here or like circles or people who have kind of updates about things that they want to share with the group about what they're working on, please feel free to do so. So